Hello, everybody, and welcome. Draft week begins. You see the picture of Howie Roseman up on the screen, the man who will decide the fate of really just your general mental health over the next 6-7 days. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman, joined in studio today by our friend, our teammate, Les Bowen. Les, how you doing?
I am great, Bo. Thank you.
Happy draft week, Zach.
Yes.
I know you're, all a flitter because it's time to go.
Fine, yeah. I'm thrilled it's here. Been looking forward to this. Have a lot more to crunch in during these next 72 hours, and then we're going to be on air.
What was
for
it
about,
from Baldy? 100 crunches a day or 200 crunches a day?
Whatever it is. I'm not sufficient there.
You and me both, my friend.
But we have about 72 hours on air as well, so we'll have a lot to discuss. Right. And that was something that we do want to make sure we mention. You can watch the draft with us on your screen. We'll be live throughout the draft Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So make sure you tune in.
Right here from Studio B. Looking forward to that. And looking forward to getting the conversation going today. A little bit more big picture, less on like Howie Roseman's draft philosophy, some of the things that you maybe gleaned from watching the availabilities last week, which you wrote about on allphly.com. Everybody can read that. Read Zach's continuing position previews. Got the name guide up there now.
I love that name
guide.
Which
is a free one, and lots of good stuff. So we got you covered. We started before the show just relitigating the Danny Watkins pick.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of a good conversation if you want to continue it, Zach.
Well, I asked Les what age is too old to draft a player. And, of course, because this is relevant for this year.
23.
You're still you still have players who had the COVID year, so you have 6-year players in college, for instance. There's a lot of 23, 24-year-old prospects in this draft. Of course, it's not 27 years old, right? So that's the joke with Danny Watkins. But when you look back at the Danny Watkins pick, because that could be constructive now, was the age the problem, or were there intangible characteristics that he was lacking that held him back from being the player the Eagles thought he was going to be?
Well, Bo is certainly right about age. This is something Bo's been talking about for a long time. And
thank you so much.
And he is absolutely right. It is, when you see a 24-year-old playing against 19-year-olds, that is something you have to look at. But with Danny Watkins, that was a very special case. And I even went to British Columbia right after they drafted him.
Oh,
and talked to the
great trip. Newspaper expense accounts are my favorite.
Yeah. The guys that he worked with.
Great food city.
In Kanawha. Well, this was over in the wine country of British Columbia. Really beautiful.
Now you're talking Bo's language.
Yeah. But, I did a lot of work on that. I think he had a lot of talent. But I think you think about when things don't work out, you look back at anecdotes that seemed funny at the time, and then they aren't.
And they become clarifying, right?
Danny went to the United States to junior college to take a fire course. And somebody said, well, why don't you're humongous. You should play football. And he went out for the football team. And I've forgotten the name of the junior college. It's in California. But Aaron Rodgers played there before going to Cal. Yeah, something like that. So they were giving him the big spiel about, if you play football here, you could get a Division I scholarship. Aaron Rodgers played here. And Danny's thought was, who's Aaron Rodgers? Which, looking back on it was, he just had no background. He had never played the sport. He played at Baylor in a very simple kind of run and shoot type offense for Robert Griffin. He was a left tackle, so he blocked the guy in front of him, who usually was a much less talented defensive end.
And about
he didn't
half
have
his
to
age.
worry about twists and games or any kind of strategy or anything. And I think he got to the NFL and it looked overwhelming to him, and he just shut down. He just decided, no, I can't do this. And rather than retire, he just took the money until the contract was up. In fact, the Eagles...
he's no dummy. I mean...
He ended up in Miami after he left the Eagles. And I remember distinctly reading a piece where they had a bunch of injuries late in the season. And the reporter goes up to Danny and says, well, I guess you might be playing this week. And Danny was like, whoa, I don't know about that. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
He's cashing those checks. Yep.
CTC.
I mean,
they gave him. It's
think
not his
that
fault
was-
they picked him.
I think that was bigger than the age. The age was, you're right, he probably did look better than he was because he was playing as younger guys. But I really think he had the talent to play several years at a high level. He just couldn't figure it out or didn't want to figure it out.
Well, I've always juxtaposed it to Jason Kelce, and this is not to diminish Jason Kelce's ability. Like Jason Kelce, as an athlete, world class center, right? And was underdrafted in the 6th round. I think the Eagles had a 4th round grade on him. That said, Jason Kelce, the same year as Danny Watkins, I think the persistence that Jason Kelce had,
Press on.
physically and mentally,
Yes.
was pivotal there, because invariably a rookie's going to encounter things in the NFL that they didn't in college.
Right.
You're playing players who are better. There's going to be I don't like to use
Jason
the term.
Babin's messing with your car.
Yeah, but I don't like to use the term adversity in football. But there's going to be situations that test your mettle.
Yes.
And I think Jason Kelce was more resilient to that than Danny Watkins was. And I think in those early years in particular, that endeared Jason Kelce to his teammates. And I think it had established a foundation for Jason Kelce to build upon that Danny Watkins at the end did not have equity with his teammates. And I think because they saw a lot of those things behind the scenes.
But in the beginning, Kelce was very protective of Danny. Kelce really wanted Danny to succeed and was really trying to guide him through. And they were close. But eventually everybody figured out that Danny wasn't interested.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing in the locker room. Well, there are probably other things, but that is one thing in a locker room that you can't afford. Is for your teammates to think this guy's not all in. He's not trying.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
I just think that it is not. It's not either or, right? Like as you said, Jason Kelce. Obviously, the want to and the persistence is a huge reason why he's probably going to the Hall of Fame. But he's also an incredible athlete.
Exactly.
Very strong for his size.
Well, I think in 2011, people didn't understand you could be 280 pounds and still be able to do the job if you were smart and you used leverage and you trained properly. I don't think that was a thing in 2011. I think people were, the guy that he succeeded, Jamal Jackson, weighed like 330.
Right.
I think he was an outlier, and he really had to prove that you could do it.
Yeah. And as for Danny Watkins, I think that like all of that stuff about his ambivalence towards being a professional football player is true, but it also is like if it's coming from the team, it's in a way like absolving them of the mistake, which was on its face a ridiculous decision at the time to take a guy who was that old. And like the whole thought process was like, it's going to be plug and play. He's going to play right. He's moving sides. He's moving positions. He's never played the game before.
Yeah,
like
guy who's
it
played
was
football
like a
3 years.
fireable decision to use as a first round pick. It was insane.
Well, that was a horrible draft, except for Kelce. It was
for them. Yes, they made a lot of picks.
Danny, Jaquan Jarrett, Curtis Marsh,
Vandervelde. Not bad in the 5th round, but
Well, my last contribution to this would be to build on what you just said. The 2 years that I covered that I'll kind of lump together, the lockout year and the COVID year, nothing scares football coaches and football executives more than like not having off-season programs.
You're right.
And it's the most overstated thing. Like, we need
like
to have
short-circuited.
Exactly. As if the decisions as if these 4 months are going to be like the most critical thing.
Right.
And I've seen, like, I always use this example. Nick Foles missed most of the offseason program in 2017, missed most of training camp in 2017. There was, like, legitimate concern going into the season as Nick Foles had enough time, and he goes on and he wins the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I think that those 2 years in particular, teams placed an outsized importance on having someone who's ready to play right away.
Well, especially in 2011 because there was no free agency.
Yes.
And they were drafting without free agency. And you could tell it just totally screwed up their whole process. They were actually looking for drafting for position.
Yes.
which you never want to do.
Right.
Even though that's the way we all discuss the draft every day. Well, they're going to have to get a corner, But that was really a searing memory for the Eagles franchise, I think, was that 2011 draft.
And probably sort of a radicalizing moment for the ageists among us. But
Yes,
I do think
yes.
there is some connectivity if we pivot to this year, because you're talking about the same area of the draft, right? The middle 20s, where
Yes.
there are going to be, like, you're going to be talking yourself into somebody.
Yes.
To some degree, right? Unless you trade up, and we can get to that possibility. But Les, I guess, how have you seen, from your perspective, Howie Roseman's draft approach evolve over the years, especially in the first round?
I think he's gotten much more proactive. He really wants to trade up now. I think you remember the Marcus Smith year, which is the year that empowered Chip Kelly to get Howie kicked out to the other side of the building. They sat in one spot, and they had a list of guys.
Six guys.
Boom,
and
boom, boom,
they
boom,
thought
boom, boom.
they were going to get one. I think Howie was assuring him that they would get one of these guys, and teams jumped in front of them to pick guys. That things happened they weren't expecting, and they gamed it wrong, and they ended up trading back and taking Marcus Smith, which was, even if you trade back, you don't have to take a fourth-round guy. You can. There's still good players there, But so he doesn't do that anymore. I mean, I'm not saying he won't trade back necessarily, because I guess he did it with Dallas Goedert, right?
He did, yes. 32. They needed the equity.
But he has 2 second-round picks now, so I'm not really looking for a trade back. I would look for a trade up 1 or 2 or 3 spots, nothing real outrageous. Although with Howie, who knows? I mean, if he decides he wants the top corner in the draft and he wants to trade next year's first-round pick or something, I don't know. I mean, he'll do anything. A.J. Brown, did anybody see that trade coming before draft night in 2021? I sure didn't.
No, certainly not.
So, but I think he's proactive. He moves. He's moved in 3/4 of the drafts that he's had. I doubt that they actually draft at 22. He loves to play the little game of what can I get if I do this.
Sure.
But positional, he stayed pretty true to the organization's positional values through the years that they had during the Andy Reid years, the Joe Banner years, maybe to a fault, because I do think, although you don't pick linebackers in the first round, you do pick them in the second and third rounds sometimes, and maybe they should look at that a little bit. But I think he's gotten better at it. They rarely have a draft where people say after the draft is over, "Oh, the Eagles really screwed that up." They always
or boring.
Yeah, they always rate well, whether it really works out or not. They always, the day after, it's always, I have to give the Eagles an A- or a B+.
Howie has figured out that you should draft players from the teams that won national championships.
Yes.
Nobody else in the league
It used
knows
to be
that.
the Pac-10 or 12, but now he's, after enough Sidney Joneses and Donnell Humphreys and so forth,
Zach and I have talked about it. I agree with you that the Marcus Smith draft was a turning point for Howie. And I think he resolved once he got back that was not going to happen again. And that doesn't mean that he's not going to stay put, or that he's not willing to move down. But I think that he viewed that as and Zach and I have talked about this, the drop off of a tier. He wants to make sure that he doesn't get left out there. And that's why I do think that a small trade up is very much on the table here. I just don't think with those 2 second-round picks in this draft,
and no third,
that giving up a second-round pick to move up for somebody, even if you're getting a third back, is going to be worth it. And I don't think that he is necessarily of that opinion either.
Okay,
Yes.
I don't really know, but I do think in this draft, usually you say there's 15, 18, maybe 20 true first-round players in a draft. You got a potential for 5 quarterbacks going in the first round.
Right,
Maybe even
that
6,
pushes people down.
And a bunch of wide receivers, which is a position the Eagles, it'd be nice if a great wide receiver dropped in their lap at 22, but they're not really looking for wide receivers. I think there's, it's possible that they'll have a first round graded player at 22. I don't think he'll sit there and wait for it, but I think that's quite possible in this draft.
I agree.
Well, to that point, and I don't say this to, I guess, dismiss anyone's reporting, or I should say disparage anyone's reporting. And I say this every year. The easiest thing to report this week is that Howie Roseman's on the phone looking to move up.
Of course.
Because he literally he does this every
yes.
The news story is Howie Roseman saying, guys, I'm not taking your calls.
Right.
I'm sitting at 22.
Yeah.
We are good. We're getting the guy we want at 22.
But it's also just like functionally how it has to work. You can't hash these details out on the clock.
Yeah.
Like you have to do the due diligence. Okay,
that's where
if
you make
things
mistakes.
happen
Yes.
in a way that leads us to want to move up, what would you want to move back? Let's hash this out now. Let's have these conversations. Like that's what he's doing.
Exactly.
That's his job.
So you see these headlines like Howie's on the phone. Yes, Howie's on the. I'm telling you, Howie's on the phone. I'm not telling you this because other GMs are telling me this. I'm telling you this because
unless you have
Howie's
the
on
first pick,
exactly.
Most other GMs are on the phone too.
But
Newsflash.
And guess what? He's probably talking to teams behind him too.
Exactly. But then to build on what both of you said, Howie does like to move up. He likes to kind of attach those 4th round picks, 5th round picks, and his view is typically you can trade back at some point and get those picks back, or you can make up for it. Like typically, you might be taking someone in the 5th round, or you can sign someone in the undrafted market who you might have a 5th round grade on. That's so. To Bo's point, they've been less inclined to attach like a 2nd round pick to move up, and I think that could be on the table, but they would really have to it would be to move back 30 spots in the 2nd round, like move up 10 spots in the 1st round, move back 30 spots in the 2nd round.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be a situation
where they would give up.
They would just give up that draft equity.
That makes sense.
Is there anyone you think, Zach, who would be worth that full draft equity,
well,
not moving back? Just
I know
22 and 53.
I know the talk right now is about trading up for a cornerback. I don't personally think they're going to trade up for a cornerback. I could be wrong. If they view Terrion Arnold or Quinion Mitchell as like significantly better than your Cooper DeJean, Coy McKinstry, then do that. I think they'd be more inclined to trade up for an offensive tackle or an offensive guard.
Okay.
The player I keep mentioning is J.C. Latham. Just from like a profile perspective, I think J.C. Latham makes a lot of sense. To Bo's point, he's one of the youngest guys in the draft, or he's one of the youngest offensive linemen. He can play day one at right guard. But if you tell me Troy Faltanu or Fuega are guys that like Jeff Stoutland really likes, I will defer to Jeff Stoutland's judgment when it comes to offensive linemen.
Yep.
Stout, you got it right. So I think that they'd be more inclined to trade up for an offensive lineman for the reasons that Dane Brugler said on the show last week. Howie will see a drop off there. The cornerback market now, unless the top 2 are clearly better than everybody else, the cornerback market, you can find someone in the 2nd round who I think they'd be happy with. I don't think the tackle market is like that. So
and history bears that out.
Exactly.
The best offensive line, the best tackles come in the 1st round, usually within the first 15 picks, whereas the best corners in the NFL can sort of come from all over.
Yep. So that's kind of what I'm thinking going into draft week.
All right. Well, there you go. If you want to play some bets on all that information that Zach has put out there, you might want to open up the Bet Parks app, because we are brought to you today by the Bet Parks app. Get in the zone with the Bet Parks Sportsbook app. The money is in the moments. We got the draft coming up on Thursday. We got the Sixers game 2 coming up tonight. Who you got tonight, Zach?
I mean, I have the Sixers tonight. I thought they played well the other night, or I didn't think. I think the Knicks won with factors that are going to be hard to replicate going into this. Now, Brunson's going to play better. What's that?
The offensive rebound rate?
Yeah, but even, I mean, the way McBride played, hard hitting threes like that, Brunson's going to play better. But I think when the Sixers are on their game, the Knicks are going to have a hard time stopping them.
The problem I have is the factor that isn't going to be hard to replicate is Embiid dragging his leg around the whole second half.
Fair.
Shooting 2 for 11 and 0 for 5 in the second half. That can't happen again. I mean, I don't want to come off as unsympathetic to Joel Embiid, but we've all covered a lot of sports injuries. He had a meniscus tear. He got it repaired. He set out the prescribed length of time. Either he's healthy and can play, or he's taking some horrible risk here and he shouldn't play. But if he's going to play. Every time you come down wrong, it can't be the end of the world. You got to, you're all in or you're not.
Yeah.
They can't win with that guy that we saw in the fourth quarter. Now, maybe he's still working through some conditioning stuff from the long layoff. I don't know. But he was horrible in the second half. And that was one of the reasons the rebounding was so ridiculous. He didn't get off the floor. He looked like me, And again, I credit him for coming back into the game. But if you're going to come back into the game, come back into the game. Don't just sort of lollygag around. And I don't know. I don't have a great feeling. There's a report this morning that Maxey is questionable with an illness.
Wasn't there for walk around.
All good betting intel right here.
I mean, I just don't. I don't know. I want to see him win, but it's been quite a journey with these guys.
A little point counterpoint on.
But
Sixers,
if Howie could manage to trade Tobias somewhere by tonight and get a draft pick, I'd be all in favor of that.
Well, you can win your first $10 bet and earn $125 in sports bonus bets on the Bet Parks app. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet. Download the app and play along with us. Must be 21 or older. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
I was talking to someone the other day about some of the fun things we have coming up this weekend. And I said we need to have some Olipop for the draft, because the great thing about Olipop is it's the world's first functional soda with a classic soda taste and the benefits of plant-based fiber, prebiotics, and other botanical ingredients to support gut health. Olipop is a new kind of soda with only 2 to 5 grams of sugar and 9 grams of fiber per can. It's available online and in almost 30,000 retailers nationwide, including their most recent launch in all Wawa stores. The debut in Wawa couldn't be more of a match made in heaven. A delicious, healthy drink that meets a convenience store both adored by a cult following. And the 2 flavors debuting in Wawa are classic root beer and strawberry vanilla, which is Kyle Neubeck's favorite flavor. Use the code PHLY for 20% off your next Olipop order. The discount code only applies to one-time orders, not to subscription orders. Olipop is sold online. DrinkOlipop.com. You can go to DrinkOlipop.com, or you can go to Amazon. It's also available, like I said, in almost 30,000 retailers nationwide, including Wawa, Target, Sprouts, Wegmans, ShopRite, and GoPuff.
All right.
All right, you guys ready for little turkeys to the draft kingdom? Now, Les,
absolutely.
This is your first foray into turkeys and percentages. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good, but I think I'm going to be stressed here to come up with all this. You're getting deep in the weeds here.
We're getting deep in the weeds, and this will be kept track of. We're going to declare a winner. I am the defending champion here by a total landslide in last year's results.
Just a warning, Les. If Bo doesn't win, there's going to be some kind of technicality that will allow him to win thereafter. Yes.
Or we just won't talk about it.
Or we just won't talk about it. Yeah.
But we can proceed. Our very first, we've got 12 categories here for just sort of guessing how Howie Roseman is going to play the draft over the course of Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We will start with the first pick, and we got 100 turkeys for each category to disperse. The first one here is, will the Eagles pick before 22, at 22, or after 22? Their first pick of the draft. I'll go first and tell you what I have. I've got 54 turkeys on before 22, 25 on at 22, and 21 on after 22.
I have 70 on before 22, so I'm expecting them to trade up. 10 at 22. I don't think they stick and pick. 20 for after 22. I think if they're not happy with a trade-up scenario, they look to trade down.
So I have 100 turkeys.
Yes.
Boy, that's going to be noisy.
That's how it all started. A little Carson Wentz.
Yes.
We have turkeys in my neighborhood in South Jersey, but I've never seen 100 at once.
I've heard turkeys can be angry.
Yes. Yes. They don't like cars. They see themselves in the cars and they start, getting all angry.
See what they're like on Thanksgiving.
I'm going to go very similar to Zach.
Zach loved that.
I'm going to go like 75 on moving up.
Okay.
And maybe 15 on staying the same and 10 on moving down.
Okay.
He's going to want to move up, even if it's one spot, right. Even if it's like one tiny spot. He wants to do it.
I think that's right. I think that is right. All right, Zach, you get to go first on the second one. We're going the second pick that the Eagles make will be before 50, at 50, or after 50?
So I have 10 turkeys for before 50. Okay, because I think that they don't trade up in the second round. I suppose that if they traded back in the first, they could trade up in the second, but
These two are connected, yeah.
I don't see that. I have 50 at 50, and then I have 44 after 50. And the 44 after 50 is them packaging either to move up, or if they did move up with one of their other picks, moving back from 50 to a different spot.
Okay, over to you, Les.
Wow. Okay. 50 is not a high pick in the second round. So I don't see them moving out of that back at all, because that, then you're getting toward the third round. Moving up, I guess I would give them some chance of moving up, but I already have them moving up in the first round. I don't think they can do both things. So maybe 25 turkeys for moving up from 50, and maybe 60 turkeys for staying at 50, and the remaining, 15 turkeys? Am I right about that?
Good math.
Nicely done. I was an English major. The remaining 15 turkeys for moving backward.
Okay. I've got 60 staying at 50 as well. Same with you. 33 for moving up and 7 for moving back.
Okay.
In what scenario do you think they move back from 50?
If they have moved up and really need to try to recoup some capital. But yeah, I think it is unlikely.
And if they traded, if they packaged one of their second rounders to move up, in that scenario where I said where you go back in the third
that's the
round.
other thing. What if they traded 50 to move up?
Well, so that's what I'm curious. Do you think they're more apt to trade 50 or 53?
I'm more apt to. I mean, they would rather trade 53, but I don't think it. I don't know that it moves the needle too much.
Yeah. Of all the questions I could ask for you to be ambivalent,
well, what are you more apt to do? I don't know.
You put me in a corner on so many random things. I ask if they're more apt. We're talking about trading second round picks here. I didn't think it was like an inquisition,
What Les was an English major. What was your major, Zach?
I was magazine journalism and political science.
Double major? Or
double major, and then I was a minor in American history.
What a show off.
No, I wanted to write a thesis. Or a half thesis at that time. And
was this the Bob Dylan thing?
No, Bob Dylan was a class I took freshman year. That's a great memory. Yeah, I learned a lot about Bob Dylan lyrics. I wrote a paper on Bob Dylan's lyrics.
I would love to see that paper.
I probably have it actually, but my semester thesis was on the Kennedy. Was on how Robert Kennedy changed in between the time of his brother's passing and then his passing.
Oh, okay.
Was it the
That's
vaccine
really
that got him?
Good. No, the real Robert Kennedy.
I know.
It was a very tragic time in our country's history. It's certainly not something to make light of.
So it was a half thesis?
Yeah, it was a semester thesis.
Okay. Was it a the or a cis? Come on, that is such a good joke.
Yeah. That was the...
I'm known for dad jokes, but Jesus Christ.
I think enough time has passed that we can make a little bit of light knowing what his son has gone on to do. All right. Total picks for the Eagles. They are slated to have 8 picks at the moment. Will they have more than 8 picks?
Tough.
Will they have exactly 8 picks, or will they have fewer than 8 picks? Les, it's your turn to go first.
Oh, God. I used to always think Howie would end up with more picks. There was a time when he was all about 7th round picks and crap like that, but they didn't get a whole lot out of those. And I don't think he's still doing that. I think he tends to end up with a few less picks than he starts out with a lot of drafts. So I'm going to go, without putting a lot of thought into this, I'm going to go about 60 turkeys for less than 8, 20 turkeys for staying at 8, and 20 turkeys for more than 8.
Nice.
Now, I don't go with odd numbers of turkeys. I want to keep my turkeys in
you and Zach think alike.
Les, you and I are kindred spirits. Yes, that's how I do it too. Bo is always he's pulling out like a 73 and a 27. Yes.
I went 51 turkeys on under 8, 35 on 8, and 14 on more than 8.
I have 30 on more than 8. Oh, I'm sorry, 30 on more than 8, 40 on 8, and 30 on fewer than 8.
Okay. Next up,
I got to know. This is probably fascinating for our audience. It really, I'm sure they're
important
writing
for
all
them
this
to-
down.
Yeah,
You
well,
would be surprised,
yeah.
actually, how many times people stop me and they say they play the games along with us.
Okay.
So yeah, there's
So I'm going to get quizzed about my turkey selections.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, dear
and
God.
I promise you, if Bo wins, then 3 years from now you will hear mention of today's game.
Okay.
Yes.
There is a super chat. Zach, I will just ask you, do you remember Julia's phone number from when you were growing up?
I did call Julia quite a bit, but no, I can tell you her screen name. We spoke more online than on the phone.
You said you called her quite a bit.
Well, okay, not quite a bit.
Would you?
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to decide if you're actually trying to downplay it and you do remember her phone number and you're just trying to not make it awkward.
I don't remember Joy's phone number. No.
Okay. What was her screen name?
Do you want me to say it? I mean, okay. Yeah. Well, she had two. Yeah.
Julia doesn't even remember having two.
Yeah. She had Jules 1138, and then she had JEH008. Is that right? All right. Boom.
Jehu?
My initials, and then I was 8 over instead of 007.
Oh, double
Yeah.
Oh,
Very
okay.
good, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Nice. What was yours?
Sorry,
Zach?
Julia.
Oh, I think you've told us yours before.
It was Philly Boy 6
Philly boy.
because at the
6
time
kids?
we got there was and we made it so we didn't have like separate screen names. We had
Oh,
like
you
one
want the
share.
exact?
Yeah,
Oh, I feel like that's set up for
And
some chicanery.
It was before my we had one computer and we all took turns.
Yeah, but there must have been times when you guys were posing as each other.
no, we wouldn't. That'd be disingenuous. But
I mean,
but so
I feel like that definitely happened.
my mom was pregnant with the 6th kid at the time we created the screen name, and we didn't know if we just assumed it was gonna be a boy because she had 5 already.
Right, of course.
So that's why it wasn't like Philly Boy 5 plus the girl, right? It was Philly Boy 6. In any event, yeah, a little too much.
Should have been Philly Boys.
What's that?
Philly Boys 6.
With a
So-
Z.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, we weren't in. Yeah,
We weren't into Z's.
I guess not. No, it's just Philly Boy.
All right. Next up, over the course of
Human events.
from now through Sunday, will the Eagles make a trade involving a veteran, either coming or going? It's just a straight yes or no. I'm going to go with an 81 on yes and a 19 on no.
Ooh, you have a veteran in mind.
No, this is more of a coming that I sort of imagine is sending a
Okay.
pick for whether it's a backup tight end or a
like Donald Parham.
cornerback.
Yeah.
The Donald Parham watch remains
Well, they signed CJ.
a fire.
They signed Azuma, so
Yeah.
it takes away the Parham watch.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think I went too high here, but it's what I wrote down. So
I
do you
have
got,
50. I have 55
on
for
yes,
yes, and
Bringing
40
in one.
and 45 for no, because Howie. I mean, Howie will always before or close to the draft. So we're not doing after the draft, and that kind of complicates it. But you see, similar to the Swift trade last year. Last year. Say they don't hit on a corner in round 1, round 2,
Yeah.
and then Howie says, "All right, we need to take care of this position. The free agent market's bare." There was another team that took a corner similar to what the Lions did last year when they took Gibbs, and then Swift was available. And you say, "All right, we'll trade you our 2026 fourth for this corner that is now the 3rd guy on your depth chart." And then Howie bills it as getting good value, similar to Swift last year.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, I think he does that. You know,
he likes to. It's action. He
If
likes
you
to stay
could-
involved.
right. If you could factor in like the week or 2 after the draft as part of the draft, certainly I would probably go all in for that. But I'll go maybe 60 on yes there.
Okay.
I think that's a Howie thing to do.
I
Certainly.
agree. All right, next up.
Also,
Zach.
wait, I see this in the chat, and this question came up last week, and I just want to look. Maybe if I'm wrong here, quote this, put this out, I'm fine. The Eagles are not trading AJ Brown. Okay, the Eagles
Right,
moved mountains
right.
to get AJ
Yeah.
Brown. The offense this year is built around having AJ Brown, Devontae
Right.
Smith, Dallas Goedert. The Devontae Smith contract is structured in a way that allows them to have AJ Brown and Devontae Smith this year.
Yes.
I look. Everyone has a job to do. I respect everyone that everyone has a job to do. I think that it's very easy to kind of create content by saying, should they trade him, react to this, and then react to the reaction, and then react to AJ's reaction. No, the Eagles are not looking to trade AJ Brown. Bottom line.
Yeah, I just don't know what I mean, you're right.
Yeah,
but
I see it in the chat.
I know.
Yeah.
But, you know, but also, like, what would be the point of trading AJ Brown at this point?
I have no idea.
Exactly.
You want to trade him next offseason?
Yeah.
You can convince me, but
But I do think sometimes we can be like, look, this is ridiculous. Why are we having the conversation? But if fans are having the conversation, we should at least address the conversation.
That's always been a big dilemma for me because so many of these are ridiculous. And I come from an era where, you know, I spent much of my career before the internet, before we had to, you know, indulge these ridiculous ideas.
I actually don't necessarily agree that you need to address everything if it's on its face ridiculous, but I think this is worth addressing. But I think there is a, like, you know, also if it's crossing the line of like decency, then it doesn't.
Well, wasn't the rumor last week they were going to trade him for the 3rd overall pick? Well, I mean, that's ridiculous.
AJ Brown put a Tom Brady thing up on his Instagram, and then all of a sudden it's like he's going.
You couldn't get the 3rd overall pick for AJ Brown. First of all, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's silly.
They're not trading AJ.
Yeah,
I'll put that out there.
There you go. All right. Next up, you get to go first, Zach. This is: will the Eagles draft a wide receiver in the first 3 rounds of this draft? So before round 4, yes or no?
I went yes, 75, no 25.
75.
And
good for you. You're sticking on your guns on this one.
I've been saying all offseason that wide receiver is a position where the Eagles are going to look to upgrade that 3rd spot. We've talked about the short-term need for a wide receiver 3, the importance of having help if Devontae or AJ goes down. We all saw what happened in Week 17 in the playoffs last year. And then also eventually AJ's contract swells to like $40 million in 2026 in terms of the cap hit. So there is a long-term potential need here too. I understand this is a deep wide receiver class. I think if the Eagles don't trade one of their 2nd-round picks, they're going to be in a position at 50 or 53 where the best players in their tier is a wide receiver, more so than another spot. And so then the Eagles have a decision: do they trade back from that spot? Or do they take a wide receiver who, based on how I think the board's going to be, is going to be much better than any other position that will be there? And I think wide receiver could be round 2 or even a slight trade back to round 3.
Plus, I mean, if they trade AJ Brown, they're going to need a receiver.
Yeah, that's right.
That too. Yes.
Okay. How about you, Les? What numbers do you have here?
I think it depends entirely on how the board goes. I don't think they're going to go into this thinking we should probably try to get a wide receiver in the 1st or 2nd round. But because it is such a good wide receiver draft, there is a decent chance that at 53 or something, you're going to look at it and say, you know what? There's a better wide receiver here than any other position. But if I had my druthers, it would be more of a 4th or 5th round thing. I just don't think you're right about the long term, but they have their needs are their structural needs, and we're going to get into this with the next questions, but their needs for offensive line, for corner, for edge rush linebacker are so acute that I would do it reluctantly, I guess. So I'm going to say 50 that they do it because there's a good chance that the board just breaks that way, but I don't really want them to do it. I guess, and 50 that they don't, because I think they have a lot of bigger needs.
All right, well, let's get into that first pick then. We've split this one up into 4 buckets. The first pick for the Eagles will be an offensive lineman, a cornerback, an edge player, or other. Anything else. You can split those 4 however you want.
Well, for the 70th year in a row, I predict a corner with the first round. I have a long record of thinking the Eagles are finally going to take a corner with their first pick, and I don't want to break that that tradition, especially in a year where it might actually happen.
Sure.
I think they have been playing with fire for years, trying to sign guys and trade for guys, and not ending up with disasters or things that aren't what they hoped they would be. So I have to split this up into various
4.
categories. Okay. Corner 50, offensive line 25. And what do I got? Edge rush?
and other. The field, basically.
Edge 20 and field 5.
Okay. Zach, you get to apportion your turkeys next.
Yeah, so I went O-line corner 45-45. I think O-line. That's how I am. I'm knowing Howie, knowing the way they think. I'm expecting.
You can't just go 46-44 then?
I'm expecting
Come on.
O-line. But look, I think there's a run on O-linemen more than corners. So I would imagine. I think if the Eagles stuck at 22, or even traded back a few spots, you can get a Coyd McKinstry, Nate Wiggins, someone like that. I think you're gonna have a harder time getting Troy Faltano or J.C. Latham at 22. So that's kind of why I hedged. I went edge at 10. I would be really surprised. I keep seeing reports like Latu or Jared Verse like that. That would surprise me. I really think it's O-line or corner, and I don't think there's another position.
Do you not like those players as much, or do you just not think that they're looking to do that?
Yeah, so I don't think this is an especially good edge rusher class, number one. Like you think 2 years ago there were 3 edge rushers in the top 5, I think it was. If you're getting the second best edge rusher in the class at 22, I don't think he's probably that good of an edge rusher. I also think that need is overstated because of the Hassan Reddick trade. I think the Eagles view Bryce Huff for Hassan Reddick as like a 1-for-1 swap there.
Yeah.
And they're expecting Nolan Smith to step up. It is something that they do want to add to their edge rushing mix. But I think, Nolan Smith was a first-round pick last year. They just paid Huff a lot of money. I don't think that's as huge a need as it's being described.
I agree. Yeah.
I agree. I went heavier on offensive line here. I have 55 on offensive line, 36 on corner, 2 on edge, and 7 on other.
That's your Brian Thomas possibility, the other, or your Byron Murphy possibility. Yeah.
Yes, or your Brock Bowers, your boy.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about Murphy this morning. How many defensive tackles do you need? I mean, how many can you?
I mean, it would be very
draft?
funny to go 3 in a row.
Yeah,
at defensive tackle. But you just know what they care about, what they value, and I think there is a scenario in which they can't look at their board the way that it's graded and not take him. Like let's say Johnny Newton goes ahead of him, right, for whatever reason, and all the tackles and corners they like are off the board, and he's sticking out like a sore thumb. That's one where I think they could absolutely talk themselves into it.
What if you drafted him and then looked at what you had there and thought, I wonder what somebody would give me for Milt Williams?
Well, there you go. Then you can make that veteran trade.
I have a quick Brock Bowers thing, but I could bring it up with Shield tomorrow. But I'll just
go ahead.
I'm not dismissing any of the history. Like I get the tight end history.
You're about to dismiss the history.
No, but history can be twisted in a lot of different ways. In this sense, okay. Do you know the leading receiver on every national champion over the last 10 years? Because I can give you the list. Okay, you're looking at, in addition to Brock Bowers, okay, you're looking at Devontae Smith. You're looking at Justin Jefferson. Jamar Chase led in receivers in receiving yards. Justin Jefferson led in receptions. Okay, you're looking at Calvin Ridley. You're looking at Mike Williams. You're looking at T. Higgins, and you're looking at there's one other that I'm missing there. Anyways, all of these guys went on to be Pro Bowl caliber play, like big time second contract players. So there is a history that suggests if you're the best pass catching option on the best team in college football, that you must be a really good pass catcher. Even though, and I'm not suggesting, you could say that has more credence to it than what happened with Bubba Franks, right? 20 years ago with the number 14 pick in the draft.
Yeah, I don't think, you're right. That has no relevance. And the fact that Travis Kelce had a very strange college career and didn't get drafted where he should have been drafted doesn't mean you can't draft a really good tight end in the first round. It just means that teams that year, made the wrong choice.
Yeah. That's true. And I think I get the Kyle Pitts and the Eric Ebron conversation and OJ Howard, like Tyler Eifert. There's a lot of guys here that haven't gone on to, but we can disagree about Kyle Pitts. He had a 1,000-yard season, but
he's had no quarterbacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with Brock Bowers, even though the history suggests what it does in terms of tight ends, you don't have a lot of precedent for a 2-time Mackey Award winner who was the top pass catcher on 2 national championship teams. That's all I'm saying.
Mortgage CS offers refinancing options, including rate and term refinances for a rate and payment reduction or cash out refinances to tap into home equity, making it a smart choice for those with high interest debt or funding home projects, education, whatever you need. Ben Stucker, he's got you hooked up. Mortgage CS stands for Mortgage Crap Stats. No, that's not what it is. It's concierge service, white glove service, because they walk you through every single step of the process. They are here to educate and empower their clients. They're available 24/7, and they're licensed coast to coast in California, Colorado, D.C., Delaware, Florida, Massachusetts, Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Virginia, and Washington. So don't forget to spread the word to friends and family in those areas. They are here to help their clients obtain ultra competitive rates and provide the exceptional customer service that makes them who they are. So when you hear the word mortgage, think of Mortgage CS, think of Ben and Alec. Save Ben's telephone number 267-391-7425 to your phone. Email Ben at mortgagecs.com. Call or text Ben any time of day or night. You can talk Philly sports, see who he wants the Eagles to draft in the first round, and check out mortgagecs.com/PHLY to get started. The advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS ID 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com for more information.
For eight plus months here, almost 9 months, I've been getting on here telling you about Game Time. And I usually talk about it with a big game coming up. And then I read the advertisement and I say sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. My anniversary's coming up. We might see a show. And so I pulled up Game Time this weekend to look for some theater tickets. Boom, you can get some good deals there too.
I thought you hate theater.
Yeah, but my wife doesn't. It's part of being married, right? It's compromise,
Very
right?
important part.
Yes. So it's our anniversary. She likes theater. We'll go see theater. And then I'll see a comedy show the next night, right? And that'll be our compromise. Or I probably won't take her to a game, but we'll go to a comedy show. That'll be the compromise. Anyways, for both of those events, I can just pull up Game Time, and I know that I'm getting tickets at a great price because with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. Buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful, and I also know that if I procrastinate here and I wait kind of for like the day before the anniversary, I don't have to worry because they have flash deals on last-minute tickets.
But you would never do that.
Easy to find. Well, no. I mean,
Not Zach.
My anniversary is a month and a half from now. I'm already planning this, right? So easy to find and buy tickets.
You
for
really
every
are ahead of the game here.
Yeah, yeah.
A month and a half away.
Yeah. Well, we got Mother's Day first. We got to take care of Mother's Day and then anniversary. And
Take
then
it one game at a time. You can't be looking ahead at the schedule.
What's that?
You got to take it one game at a time. You're looking ahead on the schedule. You're looking past the next opponent, which is Mother's Day.
Yeah, but no, but I think the anniversary requires a little more planning. I think the Mother's Day is just kind of like a gift. I think Mother's Day or anniversary has to be like a weekend, right? And so
Interesting.
It's kind of like free agency and the draft.
yes,
You can't really just ignore the draft because it's
Sure.
something.
in any event, you can buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone. You'll never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. With Game Time, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase.
All right, we're talking positions now for the second round pick for the Eagles as Turkeys to the Draft Kingdom rolls on. We've got 5 different groups this time. It's offensive line, cornerback, edge, wide receiver, and other. Now, this is a little bit different because it says second round pick, not necessarily the first second round pick. So there could be 2 different point opportunities here. And because of that, I am going 35 on corner, 30 on other. I think Howie could throw us a curveball here. 25 on wide receiver, 9 on offensive line, and only 1 on edge.
Wow.
Zach?
So this is the second round pick.
This is second round pick.
I have 20 for O-line because I think that the O-line group, I'm sorry, I was drinking water. The O-line group, top heavy, and some of the guys you're talking about in the second round, are more project types, right? You're not necessarily looking. I should say you have plug and play guards. You can take a plug and play guard, but your tackles are more project types. Corner, I have 30 at corner because I think they can come back there. Edge, I'm going with 20. There's more of a chance that they take an edge rusher in the second round.
They like to draft those.
Yeah. And then wide receiver, I went 30 just because I think there's a lot of value. Our wide receiver draft, our wide receiver show with Coach Flynn, we talked for 30 minutes about second round receivers who I think could be first rounders in different years, or you might have like late first round grades on. So I'm going there. I went 0 for other. I suppose tight end could sneak in. I suppose linebacker could sneak in, but I still think the Eagles, they're built with O-line, corner, edge, and wide receiver in mind.
All right.
Wow.
How about you, Les?
Oh, boy. Well, I'm going to go about 40 for offensive line. I think one of those two spots is going to be an offensive lineman. After that, I have no idea, but I'm going to go other for about 30 because I really do think there could be a linebacker or maybe even a safety, even though it isn't a great class. Who knows what they think, So I've got 30 left, maybe 20 edge and 10 wide receiver.
Okay. Nothing on corner because you're going
well,
corner
I'm
in the
going
first
corner
round.
first round, so
Okay.
I'm assuming this works out the way that I've planned it.
I like that. All right. Next up, the highest 2025 pick acquired by Howie Roseman over the course of draft weekend. Will it be round 3 or higher, rounds 4 or 5, or rounds 6, 7, or nothing at all?
Yeah, so I have round 3 or higher at 10, because I think if you're getting a pick round 3 or higher, you're probably trading a third or fourth rounder this year, right? And I don't think we'll do that. Round 4 or 5, that's the sweet spot. I'm going 50. I can see like you trade a 5th rounder this year, you get a 4th rounder back next year, and then round 6, I'm going 40.
Okay, Les?
I'm going about 10 for higher than
3 or
round or
higher.
higher. I just don't see that as a very likely possibility.
Okay. I'm
given
going 1
assets.
there.
Yeah. I'll probably go about 40 for the middle version, the 4th, 5th.
I've got 42.
And I'll go the rest of them all on, because he loves to get those late picks for the down the road, So I feel strongly about putting about 50 right there.
I have 65 there.
Okay.
All right, next up.
By the way, because I felt embarrassed about my pop culture knowledge last week, Les's strategy reminds me of one of my favorite lines in Field of Dreams, which is, Field of Dreams, I'm kind of dating myself, I suppose, but when Shoeless Joe Jackson's at the plate, and they said you need a catcher, and he says if you throw it over the plate, you don't need a catcher, right? Les is making these picks based on what he thinks is going to happen, right? So that's what I respect about Les's strategy here. You get it, right? Like he doesn't need the insurance of if they don't take a corner in the first round because he's doing his second round pick based on taking.
Well, you have to also factor in
like one of the biggest stretches that I can.
I'm impressed, and I'm very flattered. But you also have to factor in that I put virtually no preparation into this whatsoever.
That's the most important thing. Yeah. Anyway, two completely different things. However, Les, you get to go first on this one.
Oh boy!
Side of the ball over the course of draft weekend, will the Eagles draft more players on offense, more players on defense, or will it be a tie?
It's going to be pretty close, but I'm going to go 50 turkeys on defense, 10 turkeys on tie, and 40 on offense.
Nice. I'm going to go 56 on defense, 37 on offense, and what does that leave? 17 for a tie.
I went 35 on offense, 35 on defense, 30 for a push. I'm interested in Professor Selman's help here because my concern with the push is that you need to have an even number there. I'm not expecting to take a specialist, right? And so you have to factor in the odds that they will actually have an even number of picks in addition to
That's a good
whether
point.
there's no imbalance. So
Very good point.
I went 35, 35, 30.
Okay, we've got 3 left. One more time around the horn here. First one is running back and tight end. Which of those positions will be drafted first by the Eagles, or will it be neither? So it's either running back, tight end, or neither. And I'm gonna. This is the one spot where I'm gonna pull a Zach. I'm going 50 running back, 50 tight end, 0 on neither.
Boy, I like that.
Because I think they're going to add somebody.
They will. I don't want to do the exact same thing you did, so I'll go
49 too.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, because that's exactly what I was thinking. They'll do one of those,
Yes, I think at some point. Zach?
I will go 55, 40, and 5. 55 that the tight end is first, 40 that the running back's first, 5 that it's neither.
Okay. Second to last one, Zach, our penultimate question on Turkeys to the Draft Kingdom. Will the Eagles, over the course of draft weekend, draft a pair of teammates, which they have done most of the last few drafts, yes or no?
I feel like I should be Lee Corso here and take out the Alabama elephant, right? And put that on my head
here. And then that's actually the Michigan Wolverine.
I think there's a chance they take Bama guys. I don't think 2 Georgia guys this year. But I think 2 Bama guys would be my front runner. The sleeper is 2 Washington guys. Okay. And the ghost of Sidney Jones passed. Ghost of Elijah. They took Sidney Jones and Elijah Qualls on the same year, if you guys recall, in 2017. So Les could call up Jimmy Lake and knock 2 birds with 1 stone there. And Jimmy Lake, of course, was their D coordinator at the time, who's now the D coordinator at the Atlanta Falcons. Okay, so
how about that?
Yeah, a little. Okay. So I'm going 60 on no. After all that, I'm going 60 on no.
After all that,
okay. After all that, yes.
All right, Les, how about you?
I'm going to go 70 on no and 30 on yes. I feel like these patterns over the last several years, they tend to change. I mean, they're not going to stick with the Alabama-Georgia thing was fun, but I don't really see that defining this draft. And there are a lot of guys that I've looked at in the first couple rounds anyway that aren't from those schools. So,
sure.
Yeah.
I'm going 51 yes, 49 no. We'll see how it plays out. I don't feel strongly about it, but that's the way I went. Last one. The 4 schools here: Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, and Washington. Some 4 sort of blue blood programs where a lot of guys are coming from in this draft. Over under 1.5 players drafted by the Eagles from those 4 schools, Les.
Oh, dear God. I have to pick each school.
No.
No,
all combined. So,
okay.
1.5 over the course of draft weekend who come from all of those schools combined. Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Washington.
I'll go 65 over on that.
Okay.
And 35 under.
Okay. I'm going 73 over, 27 under. Zach?
I have 60 for over and 40 for under. And certainly if I was in Howie Roseman's spot, this would be like 80 and 20.
Really?
Because the best players are on Alabama, Georgia, and Michigan this year. And I'll give Washington a little bit of credit. But Alabama, Georgia, and Michigan have the best players this year. Michigan is absolutely loaded. And those guys are ready to play right now.
So no Quinyon Mitchell for you, huh?
No, and the thing about Quinyon Mitchell, and we'll talk about this on our draft shows, keep this in mind. If you think Nick Sirianni has clout in that draft room, Nick Sirianni's tight with a lot of guys on that Toledo staff. If you hear the name Larry Karras, his son Vince is the D coordinator at Toledo. Jason Candle, former teammate of his, is the head coach at Toledo. But I would tell Nick Sirianni respectfully, he grew up a Michigan fan. You saw that Michigan team. Those guys are loaded. Draft Michigan guys.
Unsurprising. That's okay. Les, any other sort of big picture thoughts as we approach draft Thursday?
Let's see.
You know what? I liked the story that you wrote last week, just from watching the press conferences. I thought the perspective on Jalen Hurts was interesting. I wonder if you wanted to unpack that a little bit.
I actually first saw this. I wasn't watching the press conferences live, but Zach tweeted or X'd or whatever the hell it is now, a quote from Jalen about leadership and his changes that he wanted to make going forward. And I thought it was very prescient. I thought it was it kind of showed that he gets the criticism, but it also addressed it just seemed like a very nuanced response to that question. It wasn't like, I'm going to go out and pretend to be a real, slapping guys on the butt and yelling all the time guy. It was more like, I need to make sure that things are communicated and that people get the right. Am I interpreting this right?
Yeah, you are. Now, I'm sure you and I and Bo can all kind of commiserate with this, given the format of that press conference. That was the last question.
Yeah.
So you couldn't get, I think the natural follow-up to that was, well, who was setting the culture last year? Like,
Yeah,
if you feel that you don't want anyone else doing it this year, who was doing it last year that you kind of felt that this was going astray? But no, I agree. And I think Jalen said after the season that the way he acts when they're winning is perceived one way, when they're losing is perceived another way. But I think Jalen has a certain, and to your point, and as you mentioned this, like there's a certain strength of character that he has that he's not going to just change because the wind's blowing in a certain direction. Like he's going to be very intentional with how he does it.
And Jeff Lurie at the owners meeting made that point, which I was very glad to hear him make, is that I don't want this guy pretending to be some false rah-rah guy just because that's what talk radio. He didn't say this, but what talk radio wants out of him or something. He needs to be who he is and be comfortable in that. And I agree very much. And I think maybe a little bit too much was made. I think you can't be morose when things are going bad. You have to be, you keep it even keel, but you have to be positive and you have to be thinking about that. You can't, there were times when Jalen just looked like on the sideline, like he was just really disappointed or, you can't quite, unless you're going to get really mad, which people like that, you can't just sit there and sort of look like this. That doesn't work.
Yeah, my contribution to that would be if you say you're going to be the thermostat and not the thermometer, you got to take that to heart, right?
Yeah.
Because because you have to realize it is true. If you set the temperature in the room when you look a certain way, even if that's not your intention, okay, there is going to be a perception of that, and people are going to respond to that accordingly. So if you are in fact a thermostat, then you have then the way you act, the way you operate, people are going to react to that behavior.
That's true. Hey, do we have time for one more little?
By all means.
Okay. Yeah. I wanted to get you guys' take on something else I mentioned last week, which was Howie's prickliness at the follow-up Hassan Reddick question, which I thought was extremely valid. And he was a total jerk, claiming he didn't. He pulled a Chip Kelly. That was Chip's thing to. Well, someone said something in a slightly non-football jargony way, so
entirely.
Therefore I don't understand what you're asking. He understood what was being asked. What was being asked was, why did you make this trade? What was the thinking behind it? And I just didn't like his answer at all.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit last week. I mean, the defensiveness of it is definitely off-putting, right? I think he is very sensitive to the idea that he didn't get enough for Hassan Reddick. But, I mean, he knew that question was coming. He could have prepared a better answer than that. Yeah. It was odd.
There's all kinds of things you could talk about. He made a sort of offhand reference to, well, we can go through all the complications of roster building. Well, at least you don't have to talk for an hour about
just say, listen,
but,
you can't just
this
view it as
this factor.
Right. You can't just view it as Hassan Reddick versus the pick. It's Hassan Reddick or this pick and the other space that we have. Like now we get to extend Devontae Smith. It's not just one-to-one like that, but he could have used that.
100%.
It was very bizarre.
Absolutely.
And there was a bit of, not to get into like who's asking the questions, but it was like his opportunity to sort of punch down a little bit that I thought was a part of what was off-putting about it.
Yeah, that was surprising to me because usually, it was a guy from KYW, right? Howie has something against the guy from KYW.
No, So like to your point about Chip Kelly, and I think you wrote this in I've read everything you've written over the past 20 years.
I'm so
you wrote
sorry.
like Chip Kelly, who's the son of lawyers. Like at his dinner table, they used to have like semantics mattered, and that's why he would pick apart. And Howie Roseman, who like went to law school, semantics matter, right? And so if he doesn't want to answer a question, he can pick apart the semantics of the question. I thought what Bo said was the exact point. Like I think he took umbrage to the way it's characterized as the Hassan Reddick trades in a vacuum, and that he wants to view it in conjunction with, all right, you signed Bryce Huff, you get this pick, you have cash you can allocate it elsewhere, but then say that.
Yeah, you can explain that.
Explain that. Exactly.
It's not like somebody's screaming at you or something.
And I think the fan base deserves that type of explanation. And I think it's like, feel free to, if you're Howie Roseman, like, you don't, feel free to explain yourself, right?
Right.
Like his moves, and he's good at explaining why he did a certain thing. I think the fans deserve that.
There was another moment in that press conference where he did a wonderful job. It was the best thing he said in a long time, where he was explaining the whole thing about having guys play behind classic players rather than trying to tell them when so-and-so was here, he did it this way.
Yes, Nick loved that.
That was wonderful. That was a very good, that was a great thing for him. There's no reason why he can't explain stuff.
Exactly.
But one more Reddick thing real quick.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that contract yet from the Jets.
No,
What do you make of that?
Yeah, my understanding is that he wasn't going to play here on the contract he was on.
But he's willing to do it there.
But I got to imagine that we'll see what happens there.
They have not disrespected him like he feels like.
Yeah, it could be that too.
Him,
right?
Yeah, I mean, and especially once the Eagles signed Bryce Huff, it definitely was like Hassan Reddick was not going to play here for less money than Bryce Huff.
Okay. But it's
I think that's
interesting.
part of what is the unsaid prickliness from Howie is that he was put in a box here, I think. Like Hassan Reddick was not coming back.
Right.
And so he did the best that he could.
With a gun to his head.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think
and he doesn't
what
like
happened.
that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And if Reddick does take a deal with the Jets that is not for $25 million a year, then fans will hold that up to Howie, even though obviously Reddick wasn't going to do that deal here. It'd be like C.J. Gardner-Johnson last year, where he left, and the deal, people looked at the deal, and they were like, we couldn't have done this?
Sure.
You know? Yeah, I think that's very possible.
Yeah.
All right. Good discussion. Started with Danny Watkins and with Hassan Reddick. A lot of turkeys
Through
in the
the
middle.
eras, yes.
Good stuff. Les, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to reading the next thing we've got on allphly.com. And I think you're going to join us on Saturday, day 3 of the draft, right?
Okay. That's fine with me.
Beautiful.
And a fun show coming tomorrow.
Tomorrow, Shil Kapadia joining us in the studio for the Owl You Know draft, in which we're going to predict 30 different players, Les, who the Eagles are going to draft. 10 each.
Wow.
Exciting
I'm glad
stuff.
I'm not around for that.
We did pick that accurately. I think we did a good job.
You did.
And then on Wednesday, our final
I can't name
preview.
10 players in this draft.
And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're here the whole time. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles
I have one
podcast.
quick question for you.
Zach, Les, if you want to read, if you want some names, you can check out allphly.com.
I will.
That's what I was going to ask you. Your favorite name?
I don't know that my favorite name, but the one that just as a name makes me laugh is the guy whose first name is Lubert.
Okay.
Lubert is very funny.
Okay. And great photo of choice, by the way. Finding the smoke photo.
Nash Fouch is a fun name to say.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of good ones.
You like Booby in there? You had that.
I know you like Booby.
No, that was one of your names. All right.
You're the one who said it. I mean,
okay.
Booby curry. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting dish. I'm not sure how it's prepared, but I would try it.
All right, that's a wrap, everybody.
Yes.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. We will talk to you tomorrow at noon. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.